love playing with Lego bricks. They can be assembled in different ways because they have different colors and different shapes. But what if I told you that this can be done with biology too? Synthetic biology is that intersection between engineering principles and everything we know about biology. It aims to standardize life, and an example of this is actually biobricks. You can think of a biobrick as a biological part, and a biological part is nothing but a DNA strand that has a very specific function. But what makes a biobrick really, is the restriction sites that it is flanked by, two on each side, and they will always be the same. So if we cut and paste these in the right way, we will be left with the same restriction sites always. And a restriction site is also a DNA sequence that can be recognized by a restriction enzyme. A restriction enzyme is an enzyme that can cut DNA in a very easy way. If we were to continue with this experiment, if we wanted to make bacteria glow green, well, we would need to make our bacteria competent with chemical methods or electricity or with heat shocks. Well, after these, we would need to insert our genetic circuit into the bacteria. This is what synthetic biology is about. But what other applications can it have rather than glowing and making bacteria glow? Well, I think that one of the most interesting ones is the gut microbiome. The gut microbiome is that group of bacteria, archaea, fungi, and other microorganisms that live inside of our gut, specifically in our colon. They have been found to do amazing things, such as even communicating with our brains through the microbiome gut-brain axis, the MGBA. This is amazing because the biggest nerve is the longest nerve in our bodies, in the human body, and it has vagal fibers. These vagal fibers are distributed around the digestive wall, and they communicate with our microbes in an indirect way. This means that the gut microbiome could actually be the root cause for some disorders such as even depression or sleep disorders, and even our food cravings depend also on what type of microbes we have. So especially, I am interested in this relation between diversity and sleep. So scientists have found that the more diverse our gut microbiome is, the more sleep we're going to have and the more efficient this is going to be. But why does this really happen? Well, we should know that more than 90% of serotonin is located in our gut. And of course, the microbiome has to do something with this. At first, this may sound only as an interesting or fun fact, but the thing is that serotonin is more than just the hormone of happiness. It is part of a much more complex process that begins with tryptophan, an essential amino acid that can be found in foods such as turkey or milk. Tryptophan, thanks to a series of chemical reactions, can be turned into serotonin. And serotonin, as we were mentioning before, the hormone of happiness, can be then turned into melatonin. This is where the story becomes interesting because melatonin is the hormone of sleep. Without it, there are 70 million people in the US alone who suffer from sleep disorders. But I think that this has something to do with synthetic biology. And this brings me to microscopic doctors, living medicines or smart medicines. And smart medicines are called smart because they, unlike other pills that are the therapeutic agents themselves, microscopic doctors can actually react to their environment. They can know when and where to deliver the therapeutic agent. So just as we were mentioning before, we can genetically modify organisms such as bacteria and introduce them in an oral way, for example, into a person to have them deliver the therapeutic agent. Other ways are delivering them through the bloodstream or directly into a tumor. And the reason why I think this is such a breakthrough and such a relieving thing is because other ways of modifying the human gut microbiome are actually ones such as fecal transplant, which may not be that pleasant for a lot of people. So this said, and having read some research papers on the field, like how does the gut microbiome relate with the brain and what living medicines are, I have come up with an idea. And if we take insomnia, for example, as the root problem, like the problem we want to solve, we could say that without melatonin, this could happen. Now, the question is if that necessarily the people who suffer from sleep disorders have also a lack of serotonin, the hormone which is in between the process of creating melatonin. And also if the microbiome has something to do with this, given that more than 90% of serotonin in the human body is created in the gut. So the idea is basically to use living medicines to treat sleep disorders and have them as therapeutic agents. Of course, there is a lot of research left to do, and some questions to answer are: one, if the diversity of the gut microbiome is directly proportional to serotonin in the body and therefore also proportional to the sleep disorders that a person may or may not have. Some scientists have found that people with sleep disorders indeed have a lack of serotonin, but there is still some research to do. Another question is, how will these bacteria interact with their near environment once they are released from the human body, once they get out of the body? And an answer to this could be using a kill switch in order to make the bacteria dependent to the organism, to the host organism. Another one is, how will these genetically modified bacteria interact with the already existing bacteria inside of our gut? Will they become friends? Will they override the other bacteria? Will they stay there for only 48 hours, for example, or for a longer time? We also need to think about the actual advantages of using living medicines as opposed to melatonin pills only. And because why would a person actually prefer to buy, let's say, a living medicine if they may be even more expensive? In the end, I think that living medicines will definitely disrupt pharma because they can't only, their only application isn't liberating melatonin or serotonin. They can actually be used for a lot of purposes, including treating obesity or autism, as well as depression. And even in the future, we could use them to increase our longevity. Thank you.